I like that. You know, I finally found a cloth one in the most of them are so thick, I just can't read it. It's like,
I bought a package of those Hanes ones that they have at Walmart. They actually fit me, and they're not too bad. I got the black ones, of course, but anyway, they fit well. They washed up real nice. They've got a wire in over the top here that's already stitched into them, and they come in black or white. So,
you know what I heard on the news this morning? Ireland is the highest rate in the world.
right now, yeah, we're number one. Hey, come on in.
Hey, I said, yeah, recognize them.
Oh, that's why I was getting.
I don't know, they might know.
I don't
I
know.
don't know if they'll be there.
Okay, well, it's not quite 8:30. We don't quite get started until then. So. Yeah, no. You're fine. We're just about ready.
I would say the meeting should go fairly quickly today, but then I'd be home because it wouldn't.
Yes, that's what I would say too.
Sometimes when it looks like, it's like, oh my.
I'll jump the curve on that. Hi, good morning. Oh, yeah, should be. The minutes weren't included in the folder. That's why number one is stuck inside here. And maybe what she's finishing up on here too. Whew. Yeah, they're right there. Oh, okay. Already got them. All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Darren Hamilton, Chairman of the Board of Jefferson County Supervisors. We're ready to get started with our Monday morning meeting. Let me call this meeting to order. First item on our list is to acknowledge the minutes from the previous meeting. We do, yep. Exactly.
Just saying, you imagine how many
From
they
our
have?
county insurance.
She wrote in, she had, yeah, something that she was going to,
How we doing? I don't know where's from where, just don't run as fast as I used to, so it catches up quicker. They built floors further away now.
all right.
They noticed that. Well, yeah, you know, I used to be able to reach on the floor.
Thank you.
I got it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. you-
I hurt myself.
Yeah,
So,
well, I can appreciate that.
All right. We'll continue. The first thing on our agenda is to acknowledge the minutes from the previous meeting.
So moved.
I have a motion from Dimmitt, a second from Sandquist. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll skip over meet with the county engineer. As usual, he is not here. So we'll move on to the next item on the list, which is a resolution to approve speed limit change for 110th Street, H17 from Quince Avenue East to 1,325 feet in Pleasant Plain. I'm going to ask that this be tabled because we had promised the mayor that we were going to be out in September to their September council meeting. And if I remember right, that's not until the close to the end of September because we had invited them in just after they had their meeting. The other discussion that I had was with the county attorney's office on this. While it's nice to have a resolution, we aren't necessarily bound by that. So I'm asking him to make sure that, but it is a good thing to have a resolution if we are going to do something like this in my terms. So let's bump right back then to meet with the county engineer, Scott Klein. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning. So the crews have done blading for reshaping Fir Avenue, which is just dirt between 230th and 240th. And dirt roads have been bladed, gravel roads bladed. On Nutmeg, they fixed the potholes and did dust control on that.
What about under the underpass there? Can we do anything with that?
So, I forget any workers, they'll do something for it. It's one of the things that we addressed, and I guess it was considered okay as it is, but if it gets worse, they'll fix it. And then they use the boom mower for brush cutting in District 2. They've started replacing the 10-foot diameter culvert on 250th east of Fir Avenue. That's had the road closed since we had a big heavy rainfall that washed it out. They said when they took it out that it really didn't have any bottom left in it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully this week they'll be able to finish that up, place the tanker car in its place, and then open the road back up. There was a 60-inch pipe replaced on 265th west of Dewberry, and on 268 Boulevard, that's dirt. They hauled some of the materials excavated from the Marigold ditching project and put some of that on that road to build it up. There's always been a quagmire there on one end of it. And they dug down, found old plugged up pipe and tore it out, put new pipe in its place, and then built the road up. So, hopefully that won't be a problem. I mean, might still, all of their roads, you shouldn't drive on when they're wet from rain, but.
The rain part of me.
Well, I was down a dirt road one time when it was dry and it started to rain, and I thought, I had to back up a couple of times to get up the hill.
Yeah, they get greasy in a hurry.
And I mean, it didn't cut ruts or anything. It was just, wet and slick. So, let's see. So the finished stitching on Maryville, the south part that we didn't see last road tour. And then equipment maintenance, mowing on gravels. And I think we might be done with yellow striping. I didn't get confirmation from Troy, but they were close. We're at least very close to being done. And either that or we're out of paint and that need to get more. I think we're close to that. And then they were cutting concrete to do some concrete patching this week. It was kind of hot to cut it. It's harder to cut concrete when it's hot because you might have it start to expand, yeah. But it's better to place concrete when it's cooled off, kind of like it has. So
Saw that out in 30 seconds.
yeah, they were sawing on that.
Which leads me to a question. Are we still on track to bid in November for next year?
I don't know. I don't know if the city's on track either, but I'm gonna have some discussions with them about it.
I'd like to see that project if the next construction season. Talking about it, and we're able to divert funds or change direction of funds or whatever, so it allows us to do that. And are we in the process of second round of dust proofing at this point?
I'm hoping we get some rain today, more likely tomorrow, and then we can do hard dust proofing. We can just do that. Yes. Better than
Did we ever get, I know they're gone now, so I guess the point's moved, but did we ever get a response from our contractors about servicing that road up there by Pekin School? Is it something that we could throw into the ask the questions, presumably if we're going to be here this next construction season, that might be something that we could ask them about.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
the program. I still don't know exactly how much we have left out of the bond money.
What do you think, just off the top of your head? I realize that it's just a guesstimate and nothing more. What are you talking about? So, what do you think it would cost? Could you do it for $100,000? And that would be, our portion would be about 300.
Just
Yes, right. Okay.
That'd be pretty high, but Yeah, for a single lift type overlay.
Yeah.
No build-in butt joints, just runouts, and since the patching's done underneath it, and we're not widening anything out, we could probably 300,000 is a good spot to work down from. Well, really, for right now, that's what's would solve a lot of problems is a single lift. A double lift would be if you wanted to go on into Keokuk County or having them work with us on that. But the pavement condition of their pavement north of the county line, our county line, is in much better condition than what it is south of our county line. That's kind of where the problems seem to be lying right now.
It seems like, can you compare how much of is left? And we can prioritize.
Is that classified as a farm to market?
Sure.
So here's the reason I asked the question. I don't want to see the board spend it all, but we set aside 300,000 for ambulances, and the county's portion is going to be about 100,000. So, you know, I would like to see if that's possible to do something that we have 100,000 that we can use and still hang on to 100,000. So what I'm saying is that there is some funds that might be available if there was other funds that we could put with it.
Right now, the funding situation is kind of up in the air. Coronavirus.
Well, we got that 300,000 from the pipeline. We specifically set that pipeline revenue aside. Actually, it was 360,000 because we used 60,000 to do bring the tower stuff that we needed, so the emergency radio equipment and everything. So, and it's going to be up to the board. It's not that, you know, the new board's not going to be up to me, but we've funded the entire county, including lowering some levy rates, and still we're able to take the pipeline money and set it aside for special projects. We could potentially still do that, what the circumstances are, but it's just some food for thought.
And then you have the interesting thing where the pipeline was ordered by one judge to shut operations and actually pump all the oil out of the pipeline, and then another one said you don't have to shut down and pump it out, but there's still a lingering question about approval, permits, and the permitting process, whether they're going to expect the pipeline to do a environmental impact statement, or what kind of situation a judge might order. And
Well,
they can,
you know, that's obviously that's a, you know, conversation that can be had. I don't think anything's going to come of it, but irregardless, they're pumping oil through it and they're being taxed for doing so. And so those dollars will still exist as far as that part is concerned. And I'm just saying that for purposes of Beacon, and then the other question I would ask is, you would know better obviously than I would, a long shot, but is there any possibility that there might be some safety money through the DOT?
you can,
Yeah, since it's a school.
No, yeah, no, school. There really isn't any traffic control devices out there that are any different than anything we've got. They're not like stoplights or anything like that. And then there's also, we aren't putting out paved shoulders, which would be safety dollars, you know, that kind of thing. We don't need those here in the county and all locations. We're not going to do any rumble stripes or strips down the center of the roadway, I wouldn't think.
and those just cover those extras. They don't go for the pavement.
Right, they don't go for the regular pavement. They're just
And they're kind of, well, they wanted to put in for safety money, but most of that is just to show that we need more money than what is available. So,
Yeah, which is true.
and then, so there's not that much, there's not really any available.
Right.
Every time we go and put in for something, well, we're out this year, a couple of years from now.
Well, I guess what it is that if we have the conversation and don't let wither and die on the vine, then we can think about what possibilities might exist.
Right, and that's why it'd be nice to know exactly how much we've spent of one money, and then figure out what our priorities are, so we don't piecemeal it and miss something.
Right, right.
I think so.
Okay, anything else, Scott?
I did go out and look at on Kale Boulevard, look at the situation at Hickory Woods farm. There were 3 sheds, or one's kind of a fancy shed, one's a regular shed, and then one's a greenhouse with plastic. And then they moved in those 4. Yeah, right. And those sit maybe on the next property.
They belong to Hickory Wood Farms, and they're going to be 3 2-bedroom units and 1 3-bedroom unit. The 3 2-bedroom units are about 1,750 square feet. 3 bedrooms about 2,000 square feet. They have applied for a septic permit, and they're going to be rented. And they're owned by Hickory Wood Farms. And if you come on back in that lane, I've been there, there's 54 acres there.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 homes up in the recorder's office to tell me what shows up on the deed. Just simply because we have a lot of building going on out there, a lot of permanent homes going on out there. And for tax purposes, our assessors looking at whether or not those consider multifamily dwellings, which if they're going to own them and rent them, it's just part of the ongoing conversation that we've had. And he has, Freeberg, I think is the name, John Freeberg has applied for and paid for a permit, but it hasn't been approved yet. And it will be a 1,620 square foot sand filter that will be placed out there, of which all 4 units will be tied to if it's approved. So that's what I know about it to this point.
Yes, I, as far as I know, everything you said. Agreed.
Yeah.
All this information agrees with that.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to CVB update and annual report from Terry Baker. You can slide up here to the corner of the table, Terry, if you'd like. Yeah, there's a bump there.
So nice to meet you.
I know.
Thanks for taking some time out today to meet with me and go over the activities of the Convention Visitors Bureau. This sort of summarizes our activities from our last fiscal year that ended June 30th of this year. And basically, we look at ourselves as being predominantly what we call a destination marketing organization, where largely our activities are in marketing, but we are also a destination management organization, which means we look at ways to assist the community to become a more compelling tourism destination. And so, in other words, if we market our community as something we want to be sure that when people get here, that actually exists. So that's why we've had, yeah, it's important. So we have done things, for example, like have our grant program that helps events and different things, make sure that they are really great. Our signage programs where we have blade sign, businesses in the downtown area can apply to get blade signs, and also our beautification, which was, we've started out with plantings on the square, on the different businesses around the square, and that's one piece of the puzzle that we've sort of continued. As you look through here, you'll see that some of our marketing efforts, we really look at, it's interesting because a lot of people from the local area don't really know that we exist or know what we do because all of our marketing efforts are out of town, right? So we are marketing 50 miles and out, trying to lure people in to visit and spend their money and have a good time in Fairfield. So we have partnered with the State of Iowa Tourism Office on several marketing publications. This gives us sort of a reach to get into things like Midwest Living Magazine, Martha Stewart Magazine, different things like that. We also keep a very active presence on social media and an email that goes out. We did have an email going out weekly. We're sort of adjusting that right now to try to find some more effective ways of making sure that that reaches who we want and creates that story about Fairfield and Jefferson County. Our website also tends to be our largest presence in terms of web presence. And we also do a visitor's guide, which we just published in end of February. And so we have a lot of those right now that we're hopefully going to be getting out and getting those pushed a little bit. We've also been very active in the wayfinding, which is predominantly looking at the downtown, extended downtown area in Fairfield. When visitors get here, we want them to have a really easy way to navigate around and find what they need. So they know where the courthouse is, they know where the convention center is, you know, all those kind of things. So our first project that we partnered with the Wayfinding Commission on was the kiosks in the downtown area. Those have an overlay on them so that can be updated. So that's just simply we print new maps and they get overlaid as things change. So that was our first thing. One of the other projects that we had in the previous year was a community engagement educational program where we had access to information about what makes a great tourism community, how do you manage your museum, like we had different kinds of programs like that that we made available to the public. And we also did some co-op marketing locally so that our local businesses could get some advertising for lower costs. So we funded part of it, and then we did a group kind of co-op things. And every year we've been doing our Shop and Be Merry program, which has been very successful. Tourism is actually a really big business in this whole area. And that's one of the things that we're feeling especially a little crunch on because the travel is really cut down. We don't foresee that changing drastically and improving drastically until next spring, maybe later. We estimates right now are that it'll be 2023 before we see hotel motel receipts go back to where they were in 2019. So there's going to be a period of recovery. One of the things we know though from past experiences is that we can't stop marketing. You know, a lot of people think that, oh, well, just nothing's happening, people aren't traveling, so let's just sit back. But we know from past experience that that will cause an even more dramatic reduction and that the recovery time will be slower. So we're looking at our efforts right now as what can we continue to do from a marketing perspective that keeps awareness of Jefferson County and Fairfield in people's awareness so that when they are starting to travel, they understand what the amenities are here and they're more likely to show up. So we're keeping that going. Some of the projects you'll see down at the bottom, obviously everything changed for our organization as well as many other places in March. So we shifted a lot of our focus in terms of our daily activities to trying to support our local businesses. Again, if we don't have these businesses, we don't have a tourism product. If we don't have a tourism product, our community is not attractive to people who want to come here. So we started doing some different things. One of our campaigns we did was a Visit Fairfield Later campaign, just kind of an awareness. We also did virtual shopping events, and these These were online shopping events where people did Facebook Lives and actually took orders and showed off their products. This was so successful. So happy about this. This will probably be a program we continue, maybe on into infinity. It was great. We also had virtual happy hours where we partnered with the Cider House, Jefferson Cider House. We partnered with them to show off some, it's Friday, let's make a beverage. And so we kind of played around with that a little bit. We also have an industry support newsletter. This is for the hotels and anyone who's in hospitality, such as restaurants and so on, where we just keep them updated on things that are happening around the country, new ideas, what we can do to work together. So that's kind of been our big thing is supporting the community on those levels. So, any questions or anything that?
No, I'm sure it's been a difficult time.
Oh, it's been really fun. Yeah. Actually,
It's different.
it's really different, and actually, I'm really impressed with how creative people are getting with what they need to do to maintain a business, and we've had to do the same thing. So on some level, that's really like it's challenging, but you also sit back and you go, okay, anything goes right now. So if we can do anything right now with no money, what would that be? so it's been an interesting challenge.
Well, just so you know, it wasn't in response to this, but I had a conversation with Shannon Friday morning. It was Friday morning. And our sales tax revenue is up $80,000. So that was an unexpected positive as far as our part goes. I realized that some of those dollars were prior to, but some of those dollars were after. So
We're going to be seeing that decrease as we move forward throughout the rest of the year and into next year.
All right, any other questions for Terry?
the Center for Disease Control says only 6% of the people that died in the United States died actually only COVID. Everyone else had like 2.5 other things listed on the death certificate. The COVID thing has been overblown by the CDC, been backing off a lot. And it may improve quickly. Oh, we certainly have, as Terry is well aware of, we're concerned about our property tax revenue. Not that folks don't want to pay the property tax, figuratively speaking, or won't pay the property tax, but there's a delay sometimes in that. There's just, irregardless of where we individually come down on what's taking place, which I'm sure those responses are very here. It is very real, regardless of how it's legitimate or illegitimate as far as that part goes. So this board has to deal with it, you have to deal with it. And part of the way that we deal with it is looking at whether or not we continue to fund you at the same level as, and not just you, but other venues as far as that part of it goes. And then the state mandates a 2% allowable growth, which obviously impacts everybody except the state. And so I appreciate all your efforts because just what you said, now you got to learn how to do nothing or do something with nothing.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your support. Obviously, we can't do it without you, and we want to feel like we're all kind of working together on making the area as great of a place as we can to live and work. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Terry. We'll move forward to consider hiring. Jefferson County Conservation Board would like to hire Brandon Fischel as a seasonal employee from September through October at a rate of $10 per hour. I have a motion from Sandquist, a second from Dimmitt. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we'll next discuss and consider system contractor's license for Friesen Excavation. Right, he had no problem with that.
So I make the motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion from Dimmitt, a second from Sandquist to approve the recycler's license, the system contractor's license, disposal system contractor's license for recent excavation. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, next we'll move to hearing on John Lutz nuisance property. John, would you like to come up and join us?
Okay, great. Thank you all for listening to me. I just thought we could go through. By the way, I am complying, but I'm not done yet. We're not done yet. We had a great work party Saturday. Mike was there, major part of it.
Yeah.
And we cleared out a lot of, went beyond whatever your complaints are. We haven't satisfied the complaints yet. There's still some more work to do. But we went beyond, went way back behind in the property and mowed almost the whole front area, I think. It's got pretty much the whole front area that steam from the road.
Mm-hmm.
It looks very good, very good. It was very encouraging to me. I am happy to be cleaning it up, because I plan to be moving back out there, and it's a lot less overwhelming for that. But we moved wood piles back into a burn pile down near the creek, which will be taken care of when the weather permits, And so a lot of that is cleared up. We still have some things to do. There's a couple of, according to the pictures, and I'm not sure exactly what the complaints are. They're pretty all-encompassing. Well, number 2 is the first one. Dense growth of all weeds, vines, brush, or other vegetation. So we've been working on that, of course. The weeds and the vines are mostly the wild grapes. Just kind of come over everything. A lot of that's taken care of. One of the pictures, two pictures were taken from 2 entrances. The driveway goes in and it comes on the gravel and it comes out on dirt. And so the pictures were taken from those 2 perspectives. And the first driveway probably looks pretty much the same, those pictures. I don't know if you have those there. Do you? Maybe I should have gotten them. Palm Boulevard, yeah. Yeah, 2565 Palm Boulevard. This is the picture from the first entrance. And this is the picture from the second entrance. Now, buildings on there, there's one, maybe 2 small, tiny buildings that maybe I didn't even see on there that I need to get rid of. One of them was there originally with the property was heavy beam. I don't know what it was used for. It's a mystery, that building. It's very tiny. I suppose I can get rid of that at some point. And then there's another building that definitely I need to get out of there. And it's just storing some garden type tools at this point. But I have plans for all the buildings here. There's mobile homes. They look like they should be gone. But I intend to, the one mobile home I brought in for storage, and I need to level it up and clean it up and all that. I don't know when I'm going to get to do that. Another building there I'm going to move and add it to my, what's to be my home. It's like putting two mobile homes together, basically. Well, I have use for that, so I don't want to get rid of that. Let's see, what else is there? But I think that we're planning on having another cleanup day on a Saturday sometime, and then we're going to definitely deal with that one entrance there that hasn't changed much. There's two vehicles there that I let people store on there, and they've kind of they've just forgotten about it, So I need to get them out of there, but I was cautioned that I can't just get rid of them because they might sue me or something.
Even though you allowed them to be on your property and they've left them there for an extended period of time, they still hold the titles and stuff for the vehicles.
So
What's that? Pat McMahon is with us. So,
Hey, Pat, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Is there a time frame, a time period of which when somebody leaves something that they don't come back and recover it, that it's considered abandoned?
There is. It's in the statute. I'm not allowed to, provide that type of advice to anybody, but there is definitions of that in the code.
Okay. Just, I appreciate that.
Been there for 4 or 5 years. At most, or at least, I can move them to another part of the property or something, get them out of sight from the road, and put them in line with other things, I can at least do that, and that's probably what I'm going to be forced to do, because I've contacted these people, they don't, one I haven't heard back from, but the other acts like I'm annoying him. It doesn't want to do anything, I don't think, and so I'll probably end up just moving those vehicles, and that's in that first entrance there. It still looks pretty much the same. The second entrance, took a couple of pictures, but we'll see if I can get them up here. Camera. Oops. Camera.
I didn't get that. Try tapping above to edit.
Camera. Okay. I might get on the picture of my kitty. There's a few pictures here, but this is a picture of the second entrance. This brush here is piled from a tree, but behind that brush, there's a lot of lumber I had there, which I'd intended on keeping, but I've moved most of it back into the burn pile. So that's all cleared there. So behind where you see the brush on there, and it's all mowed, and it goes back. I don't know how many acres you guys cleared, but probably about 3 or 4 acres I cleared of the weeds. So making progress there. Another thing I wanted to say is I am complying, but I still don't agree with the ordinance. But I'm happy to comply because it helps me get ready to move out there. So, I mean, it's stuff I would have wanted to do anyway. But I still have this thing in my mind that says, this is America, This is people living in the country, and people living in the country should be able to do what they want to do on their own property. So that's basically my contention. Doesn't keep me awake at night, but when I see, I've driven all over the United States, and I've seen places, like the guy out west of town, I went out to see what his place was like. And I didn't,
isn't it?
well, you know, it didn't bother me.
Bothers its neighbors. though.
That's the thing. I saw that there, I can't remember, didn't look carefully, but I think there's people living near him. And for that reason, I could say, well, you know, there might be a
Well, not
problem.
only that, with all those vehicles that are out there and the fluids that leak out of those vehicles, that
It was like fence to fence.
Yeah.
And fence row to fence row.
we honestly don't know whether or not, what their sanitary disposal is like. You know, they're living in traffic trailers out there. We don't know what they're doing.
Well, yeah, there's some issues there, but I'm sure. But if he did it properly, I don't know if there's a proper way to do it. That person should have a right to do with their property what they want to do with it, if they're in the country. But he's had people encroach on him there, like city dwellers, you know, living in nice homes. And whereas my place out in the country, you know, there's nobody out there, you know, to speak of that would. Now that brings up another question. How did this my place come to your attention?
How?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can't answer that either because it wasn't a complaint that came through me.
But okay, so sometimes it is a complaint.
Sometimes there's complaints that come to supervisors and then we'll take them to the company that does this for us, goes out and tracks the nuisances. Other times that company is contacted directly, I believe, and other times they're contacted through the county attorney's office. It just, there's a number of avenues of people complain about different things that come to the county. So
We don't know whether it's from somebody complaining or.
well, and I can't answer that. I don't know.
No,
Okay,
it's a rare instance that somebody's gonna find.
So it's reasonable to assume that somebody did complain. As you noticed on your letter, there's no, if there's any issues, you contact that office. We set it up that way specifically. We're not involved in it in terms of we get the pictures, we get the letter, we know when the property's turned over to the county attorney, so we're apprised of all of that. But other than when somebody comes in and wants to appeal anything that they decided for, I don't want to say we're out of the loop, but we're not part of the process to set it up that way, specifically because, as I indicated to you the other day when we talked, I appreciate what you're saying as far as, you know, you're at the end of the world, so to speak. I've got another property that's down, you can spit across the county line, and there is nobody else that lives on that road. There's a property owner there that they don't have any buildings, they just have land just to the south of it. And like I indicated to you, where do I draw the line, or how do I draw the line, or how do we draw the line? You know, if you're in the unincorporated areas of the county, you define what you define as being out in the country. Somebody else defines, you know, and I don't disagree that you have the right on your property, but do you have the right, and I don't mean you specifically, I'm talking generically or generally, to devalue somebody else's property by the actions of it, okay? We don't have the luxury of picking and choosing. As I indicated to you, we have to, and I told you what my position is. I have no problem with repeating the ordinance if we're not going to apply it equally and uniformly. And by that, we can't pick and choose who we apply it to. If it meets the definition, that's the arbiter that we set up through the attorneys and whatnot. And that's what we have to go by. And if those definitions, if by definition those circumstances exist on your property, her property, my property, then we are in violation of the nuisance ordinance as it's currently constituted.
And this has been in place several years. And historically, it's been fairly subjective. So we wanted to get a more objective way. And then even if we were to repeal the county ordinance, there's still state law that speaks to basic health and safety.
Now, I know a lot of work was done, and I appreciate it. It's like I also, when you told you not to worry about having to be sent to the county attorney's office or going to court. That's not what we were interested in. And that as long as progress was being made, that's all a person can ask for, and that's all we're asking for. I realize, and I think we discussed that, but I realized that on one level it was a daunting prospect for you, especially individually.
I myself didn't have my church members come out and
Yeah.
help me out.
And so in that conversation, I reiterated that that's all we're looking at. As long as we see progress, and I don't think that this board has ever put a time frame on that progress. We have, in context of when a property owner comes in and says, we'd like 6 months, we were doing that, and it just became very problematic. So one of the reasons that we've turned it over to the Russ organization is they monitor it. As long as progress is being made, you're accomplishing what we want to accomplish. We don't want to take you or anybody else to court or any of that. We're just looking, and you're doing what we're wanting to see done.
How do we know when I'm done?
Representatives from Russ will come out. In fact, they'll come out in 30 days to see if progress is being made. And they will stay in contact with you via a letter. And at the end of when they consider that you come into compliance, they will send you a letter that states that Merry Christmas.
How will they be told? Because if they look at the one entrance, they'll say, oh, they haven't done anything. Yeah.
Well,
And it looks to me like that's what they're going by. It's just what they photographed from the.
Well, it's problematic for somebody to enter private property. And so, the visual is what they can see from the road. But can you see from the road the progress that you made? Okay.
Then that's going to be enough to
On
trigger.
the one entrance.
Sure.
And
And as long as it's ongoing, and I have talked to the director of Russ, he's aware that you and I had a conversation. Okay, and we're on the same page.
They're being told that we're working on it. Okay.
And that's all. That's
Any assumption?
You can write some pictures too. I have a company address.
What's that
You
now?
have a company address. You can write some pictures.
Yeah, I could say.
well, like I said, I do too know when it was. When you do August 3rd, so probably after Labor Day, some point they'll be out to look at the property. Progress is being made. And in fact, when you feel that you've accomplished what you needed to accomplish, you can always make a phone call and say, hey, I need you to come out and inspect my property because I think I'm done. And
I can be communicating with this guy.
sure, absolutely. Absolutely. By all means. And it'll probably be Kent that comes out, but just one, no, it's one of the inspectors, but Kent's a good guy. But talking to Bruce, certainly two-way communication. But I did have a conversation with him. I did tell him that I had talked to you and that I indicated that as long as progress was being made, that's all we're asking for is progress.
Yeah.
And when you can physically see progress, then we're good. Okay.
Hard to see from my pictures, but they're, maybe you can see some. But if you walk back on the property, you go.
Well, and that's another reason to contact them and have them out there when you're there, because then you can walk them around and show them what you've done. And it can make it easier for them to understand that you have done all of this to this point. So they can base it off of what they saw previously. And like Lee said, a lot of times they'll take pictures from entrances that are on the roadway because they don't want to actually go out on their property because they don't want to trespass.
So what is the limit on vehicles?
There's no limit on the vehicles as long as they are licensed. Okay, but by the same token, for me personally, it's problematic that you've reached out to the owners of those vehicles and they don't want to remove them. But I'm just going to leave it at that at this point, because I don't want to let the world think that there's some way that I don't want to say this, you know, I don't want to inject my personal thought into it.
There you go.
Pat say that there is in the code that, you know, at some point they are considered abandoned, and you know, I don't know. Look that up. It would be the way that I would say it. It's unfortunate that they're taking advantage of you in that respect. I understand. It is that, you know, it says, in fact, except for those legitimate businesses, salvage yard or spare parts defined as follows, and then it defines and under that it says any vehicle which, because of its defective or obsolete condition, in any way constitutes a threat to public health and safety. That might be subjective, but it is defined in the ordinance as that, and if it's not licensed and not in running condition and is, you know, by the same token, if it's like me, if it's an antique vehicle that you're restoring, we just would need documentation of that. And I think that you would, you know, would be okay. Well, I think that it would be obvious if that's what was taking place. So if they were to come out.
Right now, they're sitting there. Right. I have a 53 Jeep pickup that I want to restore, but it's sitting there. And I have to apply for a license or a title for that. And I have another Jeep that's sitting there for parts. I have my mother's vehicle that's perhaps to be fixed up someday. There's another vehicle I'm giving away. And there's another vehicle I just set out in the field for sentimental reasons, because it's the one that my wife and my son and I traveled from Oregon. So I don't like to get rid of those things.
Right. What I would like you to do is have a conversation with Bruce, Ross, and then
be the ones that.
Right. But at least demonstrate what you've done out there, and any time that any actual work is completed, they've always been good to allow more time when it comes to that. But it's got to be something that shows physically that there has been a change in the way the property appears. And in some cases, like Lee has alluded, we've had people that haven't made any changes at all, and we've had to continue on through the court process. But we've also had others that have cleaned up, like you have, in areas, and they're actually making progress on what they're doing. So they're a little more lax on that because they know that you put time, effort, and are wanting your property to be better than what it is, and that's what they're looking for. So
there is a limit on vehicles, and I want to keep these vehicles. And is there a permit that I can have?
Again, I don't think there is any limit. It's just that they have to be at least organized and not sitting everywhere, or ends of them on the right of way, or those types of things. Yeah.
those vehicles.
I have registration title for all but the Jeeps, and for this other car that I'm giving away. I think that's.
Well, it sounds like you have documentation for 90% of them. So I don't think there's a problem with that.
No, you're drawn to the fines and that, but basically it's saying failure to comply with the notice. notice to abate, the nuisance will result. Well, you're complying with it. Okay. It doesn't specifically establish, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? It's fluid, or it's not arbitrary, but it's fluid.
Ignoring it, then.
Right.
You clearly shown effort and progress.
And the 30-day time frame is 30 days to respond to notice, which was on 2 occasions, actually 3 if you count the conversation you had with me in the beginning. So you're complying, and that's all we're asking for you to do, is to continue to comply until you, and when you feel that you've satisfied it and that there may be some questions in that area, Bruce, call and talk to him, or have him come out, or whatever, even prior to that. Walk with you. I mean, certainly that's why we've got them.
Property got anything?
No, not from what I saw. I commented that because in general, we have that ban with people with a lot of vehicles.
Wait, how's that defined?
That, yeah.
It'd be 33 feet from the center line of the road out into the property, and that's considered a public right of way. You would most likely own that land, but
Yeah, there's shacks.
there's not supposed to be any obstructions in it. There's a state law against obstructions in the right of way. So people can't leave vehicles for extended periods of time, or
Build fencing, or leave hay bales, or there's a myriad of things that you left in the right of way.
When I bought the property, there was a shed that's all the way up to the fence line in the front on the dirt road.
as long as the fence line is out of the right of way, then something like that building would be out too.
We don't have setbacks. I think that is a factor is, where is that in relationship to the right of way?
Well, the fence line is right on the property line of the road, you know, so it's probably only 12 feet from the road or something like that.
But that could be a
Yeah, that's where it's been, you know, since when I bought the property. And another,
Well, when you say the road, though, are you talking about the drive, the lane that goes into your property?
I'm talking about the county road. You know, it turns to gravel right at my driveway, my first driveway.
Right.
And there's a gravel inside there. And so then it's dirt. And then the second part of the driveway, which I created, so the driveway goes in and comes out, you know, so is on the dirt. And
Can I address the council? I'm gonna ask a question.
Sure. 25 cents.
When I was explaining what's property ownership, you own to the center of the road. Maybe not, I'm just asking.
Yes.
You
Pay taxes.
tax to that, but the 33 feet is the center line is considered public right of way,
Right.
which means that you don't have the domain over that
I mean,
property.
you need to maintain a sidewalk out perhaps in the city or other.
Right, right.
You theoretically allow the state to use that for cleaning road ditches.
Correct. Right, correct.
so that property's been in violation of that.
Well, and certainly, you know, Scott can go out and take a look at it. I can look at it and it wouldn't necessarily tell me anything. I'm sure Darren could.
Yeah.
But Scott could go out and take a look at it, or Brent or somebody, and see, you know, but how long have you been out there? And the fence has been there, out there?
Lord knows how long.
Right.
I think years ago, it used to be a dairy farm.
You know, and I don't know that we didn't, when I say we, I mean, I don't know if the county did or whatever, but clearly, you know, Scott can take a look at it and see if it's an issue. And then, but like I said, John, I am, you're trying to comply, and that's all we're asking for.
Yep. Yep.
I'm not gonna go to jail. I have to pay.
No.
Friday maybe, but right now, no, we're good.
It won't be over
If I
this.
stay on your good side.
There you go, yeah. And again, I would encourage you to reach out to Bruce. Because that's the person or the organization that you'll be dealing with
Okay.
directly.
That's who I should be.
Right.
Do you have his number?
It's on the letter.
All right.
All right, thank you very much, John. Appreciate you coming in. Okay,
Okay, be careful.
committee reports. Do we have committee reports?
I had Early Childhood Iowa, and been working on setting up our work session for tomorrow on tiny homes, and we're just trying to learn and educate the board. And then Early Childhood Iowa through Tammy, Region Testerson and Josh Larrabee had a child care roundtable with Tony Ernst last week. I think it was Thursday. So I went to that, and basically we reviewed how that project happened and why, and we used data and all of that. And the need was that we were short several spaces. And what have been done to help existing providers already, and then new providers, and then now there's a separate board working on fundraising and planning a new building.
All right. Lee, did you have any committees?
Transit, pretty much boilerplate meeting, except that we had a long discussion regarding veteran transportation. And basically what the director asked us was if all veteran transportation was free or if there was limits on it. What we meant by that, what he meant by that was when they call and they want to go to Wendy's, is that a free ride? And so basically where we left it is all rides are free for veterans. And then we will monitor the ride activity is in terms of what kind of rides we're providing. Obviously, all medical rides, things of that nature, going to Walmart, for grocery shopping, that sort of thing. We will accommodate veterans, and that's our plan. If we see that it's starting to get outside a certain scope, we may have to look at that and rein it back in somewhat. But so that was, I've always been a proponent of not charging veterans. And like I said, the county set aside $20,000 specifically so that if we don't contribute that $25,000, then we lose significant revenue from the state and the feds, much more than what we're contributing. So the counties have said, okay, then let's use that $25,000 for veteran transportation. So that's what we're doing. Area 15 regional planning, I did discuss a little bit of this with the Ready Business Revolving Loan Fund. We were awarded Supplemental CARES Act application for $1.1 million to create a new revolving loan fund for businesses, prepared an amendment to allow deferment and accrual of interest on those loans up to 12 months. So the loans that we have out there right now, we're looking at deferring the interest and the accrual of that interest for 12 months for those businesses. It's just something, it's just a way that we can help. Fairfield expressed interest to pursue a CDBG application for a water main replacement. We're anticipating October for that application. Lockreach, the state revolving loan, city will use state revolving loan for the local match for their water and sewer project, and the administration contract was provided. I told Dee that the CDBG grant for the community facility is fully awarded $600,000 in February for the construction of the new child care facility. And Regional Housing Trust Fund, we received $277,000. $253,000 of project funds have been spent as of July 2020. Second disbursement of $50,000 to the Loudon Housing Multifamily Rental Project. will occur upon occupancy in this month, and will be paid with 2020 program funds. Locally, I think there's lots of other things that we've done, but those were the local projects or
This week, the committee of one, the building committee, we are making progress on the tuck pointing project on the exterior of the building. We're supposed to be having Jagans come in today to bring the pump in order to resolve our problem in the treasurer's office with their sink. So I'll be around here waiting for them to show up today and order them to the spaces that they need to get into in order to complete that work. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the water fountain is in and downstairs in its new location. We still have some repair to do on the wall where the old location was for the drinking fountain, and removing and capping some sewer line in that area, water line, and getting rid of an electrical outlet that's on the wall right there because of that older drinking fountain. So we have a lot of things going on. Dave has been painting and cleaning the entry on the north side so that when we can get it back open again, everything will be done in there. I know he's continuing to work on trying to get stuff ready for painting here in the building. I've also talked to the clerk of court about the noise situation and how court is going to be affected or not affected coming up. I'm giving that schedule to them so that they know what times they can work in that area of the building and what times that they should not be working because of recording different proceedings that are happening out there. I've also had discussions about April, who works as the mental health advocate here in her office location. We're going to look at first seeing if we can't switch that lock around on that particular door, which has gotten her locked into that office a few times. There's no real easy way to leave there if you can't go out the same way you came in. The only other exit would be down the back stairway and then hope that the doors aren't locked on the treasurer's office, because that's where that stairway comes out at. And we're making progress on that as far as what the new location would be or how things would look after that. We're going to have to put up some better signage to let people know that that's where the advocate's office is. And I believe that that advocate is part of the court system. They're not part of the mental health system per se, even though they do have access to particular records that have to be protected because of HIPAA law requirements here that we must follow with confidentiality. And so things are moving along, albeit slow. They're still moving along, and they're still on schedule, hopefully to be completed with the exterior of the building sometime in October. We had a meeting with the architect last week. I wasn't able to be here. I had a different appointment during that time, but Dave has reported back to me, and so has the architect, that everything is going as they have planned and predicted for the project to go to this point. They've added a second guy, well, third guy. We have now 3 guys working on the exterior of the building, whereas prior to this, we only had 2, and so things should speed up even more. The biggest part of the project, again, is all of the sandstone around the lower portion of the building. All the joints are being taken out and put back in. The upper portion of the building, only the areas that are defined by the scope of work, which is about 25% of the brick face that's up there, will have to have tuck pointing in between the bricks. And if you stand and look, there's some very obvious places around here that are like that. Other places that are very obvious that there isn't a problem. We have the bat situation. We have identified several holes already up around the the roof line, the roof edge where bats have been able to come in. We've plugged up a few of them. With the noise and the activity that's going on with the construction, we've had several bats that have made their way into the building, but we're believing at this point in time that that's because we've cut down on their number of exits that they have to be able to come in and out. And what we're shooting for is getting down to one and then closing it up after we feel that most of them are all gone. We'll still have some problems with bats coming down into the building until we can eliminate them one at a time is what we're looking at. But last week we had, I think there was 5, 6 total bats that were found. Yeah, that made their way inside the building itself. And so, yeah, and it's a problem, but again, it's mostly because the work that's going on and the noise that's created from it, and the fact that we are finding places where they're coming in and out, and we're eliminating those systematically. So hopefully, when this is all said and done, we will not have the volume of bats that live in our attic that can find their way into the rest of the building. So that's kind of how this week's gone with that so far.
We're gonna put a cedar or something like a cedar. That sandstone anyway.
They're doing what they're calling consolidating. It is a sealant in one way to look at it, but what it does is any areas where the sandstone is delaminating, popping off from sandstone behind it, it's a chemical that bonds that back together. So there is a sealant to it, but it's a waterborne product. It's not an oil base, which you shouldn't use oil-based product of any kind on sandstone. The idea of the sandstone is so that water can come down from the backside and filter its way through out of the building naturally without a bunch of weep holes that are put in so that water can do that in most brick buildings. The sandstone here was mined in Indiana back in the late 1800s. So our sandstone has held up pretty well. But there are problems with it, and we're working hard to make sure that those are fixed or repaired before this project is done. So, all right. We had discussed and considered one nuisance property, but do we have any others that we need to keep abreast of at this point in time, Lee?
Not that I'm aware of. There was one sighted before John's out south of Fairfield, actually next to Sheriff Morton's house. And I have not received anything from Pat. Sorry. Well, I haven't received anything from Pat, but I haven't received anything from Bruce regarding the status of that property. I don't know if Pat has anything or just anything generically regarding nuisance.
Okay. All right.
So last week I applied for a septic permit and was not, that application was not allowed to proceed based on something that came from this office to the sanitarium.
Yeah, Dan Miller, you're on with us yet. Can you address that question?
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Dan, we're not hearing you very well.
You can't hear me? Hello?
Okay,
Hello?
I've got you now, yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, there was a permit issued for the kind of cluster of homes out on Kale Boulevard. And I guess Lee had concerns about these kind of projects going on around the county. I think it's on your agenda, isn't it?
For tomorrow.
Or okay.
Discussion of tiny home.
Yeah, I thought that was part of today's meeting.
And
Sorry.
that's tomorrow, and It's a session so we can get educated about what's going on and learn.
Okay. So anyway, yeah, I just told John I'd wait till this meeting because I thought it was going to be discussed at this meeting to sign off on it. And I let Lee know about it. So
I was gonna say, since you're here, you know, tell us
Yeah,
what's going on. We're trying to.
well, we really can't discuss this as a item right now. This would be just have been a public comment. We're gonna have to address it tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. So I think we'll wait until tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. We're having our work session on subdivision ordinance regarding tiny homes. And we'll discuss this at that point in time, because again, we don't actually have that on the agenda for today. We do have it for tomorrow.
I'll consider that invitation retracted or postponed until tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for bringing
Hey,
that
we're
up.
attend tomorrow,
I will make it.
or you can come by Zoom.
Yeah. Well,
I'll
If you
come in
can come
person.
in.
yeah, that would be better.
In part, no, it's, I personally asked Dan to notify us of any new permits that were being issued so that we were apprised of it, because heretofore, we had no clue what was going on. And it's an issue that I think that the board believes that we need to address, but it wasn't specific or personal to you or to your project. It was just a matter of, I felt we needed to be apprised. Otherwise, when we're asked by other folks, we don't have an answer. So Dan was just complying with my request to notify us that, you know, when a project was occurring, but it isn't. It is specific to your project only because you were the next one in line.
Yeah, luck of the draw.
So,
Okay, 9 a.m. Okay.
I just brought these in for tomorrow.
Okay. Well, thank you. All right. Yeah, if you're with public comments, yeah, we can take your comment. Yes, sir.
I don't think you guys at least showing some interest in probably outside me. It's getting looks like some progress is being done. And after 20-some years, I'd like to thank you guys, because I started complaining back in the French Steamer and Esco.
No. Yeah.
I know there's a little progress being done.
It is.
Indigo Boulevard.
Okay.
Okay.
You know, I've told you about it before, and but there is stuff in that.
I was just out there the other day. I went down to the lunchbox in Dallas, and so when I come back up through Libertyville, I drove out, and I honestly didn't see much progress other than I saw the travel trailer.
On the trailer, but there's some small dozer there.
Okay.
So I don't know who's doing it. I've never seen any action on it when I.
Well, you know, my personal opinion is if that property was cleaned up, that would be a nice piece of property. Once you got all of the paraphernalia out there.
Yeah, I think if property's cleaned up, then Fortis could just farm straight through there.
Well, that could be.
Yeah, they put in.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think how much money you want to spend on taking down trees and everything, but
Right.
that's what ought to be done.
Right. Yeah. And my understanding is, because I've had conversations, I believe it's with the daughter, and they were applying for a grant or something, a USDA, to build a new home there for her. She was actually living in that travel trailer. Yes, that's what I meant. and she was running I mean, it was just a very unsafe condition or situation. And so I thought that she was going to do what she could to mitigate the situation, but I had not seen a lot of movement. But I'm glad you stopped and indicated that you're starting to see some movement.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was, I actually put the brakes on back up because after 20-some years, I'm on. Finally.
Well, hey, thank you very much for coming in. We appreciate hearing comments like this that
As long as it keeps going.
Yeah,
gives us encouragement.
It's like we said to John.
Yeah, John just needs to drive around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
See what your neighbors do.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it is what it is, right? I mean,
Yep. So,
There is a post.
Before that trouble out there,
Yeah.
it was getting out of hand and then it got worse after he got in an accident.
mhm.
Yeah, this small farm.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, do we have any more comments that we would like to make today? Hearing none, I would accept a motion to adjourn the meeting. Oh, excuse me, that's on there as well. All right, I have a motion to allow and approve claims by Sandquist, a second by Dimmitt. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to adjourn by Dimmitt. Second by Sandquist. All those in favor say aye. Thank you very much for joining our meeting today. And I appreciate everybody that was online with us. Thank you very much.